Welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and of course, we got Modern Horizons 3 spoilers coming out, and I've talked about some of the commanders, but there is a cycle of cards here that I'm going to talk particularly about. It's likely getting the most buzz of all the cards from this set. Are they actually going to be the most played? I mean, we really got some busted cards from this set, so are these going to actually be the most played cards or the most chased cards or the most sought after, the most expensive or whatever? I think likely, but considering some of the other cards I've seen, there's a chance that maybe something else sneaks in there. This is the free cycle, right? And of course, everyone goes nuts over the free cycles of cards. The Ikoria free cycle of cards has been staples in the Commander format since they first came out. Obviously really powerful, really sought after. Everybody wants them for their decks. The only reason you don't put them in there is because maybe you don't want to splurge and spend the money on them. I think we'll be the same case with this cycle, and I will be ranking them how I think they're going to be impactful in the format. I'm going to start off with the black one, Flare of Malice. 2 black, instant. You may sacrifice a non-token black creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Of course, the alternate cast for free is what everyone's going to love so much. But I try to evaluate these because sacrificing a non-token creature is not the easiest thing in the world. It's not like just having your commander out. That can be difficult. So I like to also evaluate these based on, okay, well, what if I'm not casting it for free, right? That's, sometimes people don't take that into consideration. This one does get the upside of black is obviously the deck where you're most likely going to be sacrificing a creature anyway. So it does have that. I still think it comes in at the bottom for me. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the greatest mana value among creatures or planeswalkers they control. That's not bad. If you think about, I gotta cast this at instant speed for free because I'm going to save the game or something like that. That scenario where you really want to cast it for free, this is the one where you least want to be doing that, I think. There's a possibility that you do get that one thing, right? Because each opponent is sacrificing a creature with the greatest mana value. So, it's not like you're necessarily going to get the exact creature you want, but it is a possibility. And you got a buddy with a Voltron deck. Likely that's going to be his most expensive creature, maybe even his only creature. So you can, in a pinch, without spending any mana, get that. That's a great way to get, these kind of effects are great against Voltron decks. Other than that, though, it certainly is not, and I mean, we have a ton of effects like this already. Even if you have some of those other effects, are you going to take those out to put this in? I mean, you could. This, for me, certainly is going to be the one that's played the least and also is going to be the least expensive. Moving on to the red one, and there's not a lot of big surprises here with what these do. They do exactly what you would expect in the particular colors. Flare of Duplication, 1 red instant. You may sacrifice a non-token red creature rather than pay this spell's mana cost. And you can copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. This one, again, you're doing this effect a lot already in red, and there's a lot of options here. Again, if I'm not sacrificing a creature, 3 mana to do this, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. And again, if you're already doing that in your deck, you might easily be able to swap this out. Are you going to have a non-token red creature lying around? Again, this is why I have this one more towards the bottom. I mean, the outcome here is not super powerful. Again, in doing this in a pinch is nice because I'm tapped out and my opponent casts an instant or sorcery that I want to copy, and now I can do so. That can be really, really good, but the outcome here I don't think is as good as the other ones. It also, to me, this one might be the most difficult to play as far as the deck you put it in that's going to have red creatures lying around that you can sacrifice. And, it's not flashy. It's not going to do something that every deck is going to want to, like, is copying an instant or sorcery spell is certainly something you want to do, but I have 0 of these cards in my decks. As far as the actual effect you're getting here, and the fact that it's free is not going to make me want to play it more. Is copy target instant or sorcery spell something that you just have to auto include in all your red, maybe even mono red decks? And, for some people, they like it, but the fact that this is not an effect that you see in every commander game, that alone is going to make it, less sought after, whereas the top 3 here are effects that you want in every commander game that you see in every commander game, right? Next up for me is going to be Flare of Cultivation. It was a real, I went back and forth quite a bit on whether or not this would be the 3rd or 2nd most popular. Originally when I talked about it, I thought it was going to be the most popular of the cycle, but they outdid themselves there. Also, I thought it might be just the most played one. like the one that most easily slots into decks. I mean, it is a Cultivate, right? And Cultivate is like the fifth most popular card in the entire format, and this is just a better version. One green sorcery. You may sacrifice a non-token green creature rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Search your library for 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, put one on the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand. So it's a Cultivator, Kodama's Reach. It's doing that effect that every green deck is going to want. It is both ramping and mana fixing, of course. That's why those cards are great. And this one, again, I was going to put it at number 2 because the fact that you can cast it for free is really, really important, because being able to ramp really early in the game, and the scenario I gave is you could very easily double ramp on like turn 2 or 3 because of this card, right? I can play a mana dork, like a Llanowar Elves turn 1, turn 2, I now have 3 mana because I've played my second land, and I can cast a Cultivate for 3 mana and then sacrifice my mana dork to cast Flare of Cultivation. That seems really, really good. Now, I know that's a little bit of a fringe play. It's not that fringe, though, is it? In a green deck? Again, in green decks, it's very easy to slot this in. It's very easy to sacrifice your creatures. It just, again, the outcome here is not super powerful. It's not as powerful as some of these others, but it is the one that most easily slots into any green deck. Every green deck could easily just take out their Cultivator, Kodama's Reach, and put this in instead. The only thing that is going to limit you is how much is it going to cost. I did indeed put the counterspell above the cultivation. I got a little bit of pushback when I said that I thought the cultivation was, a little more easily slottable into decks and a little easier to cast, I think. But yeah, I mean, the free counterspell, I'm not doing this subjectively. I'm doing this where what are the cards people are going to go after? And the fact this is the free counterspell, that alone is going to make it so that the CDH players are going to want it. It's going to be played in other formats. Obviously, this is a Modern Horizons set. It is not a Commander set. So the modern players are likely going to be playing it, right? Certainly, as I've said many times before, everyone loses their mind over ramp in Commander. In other formats, people don't care. So Flare of Cultivation is likely not going to get played in Modern at all, I don't think. Like when I played Modern, nobody played ramp. Are they going to start playing Flare of Cultivation? I don't know. It seems unlikely. Certainly, Flare of Denial is going to be more sought after in Modern than it is going to be in Commander. And certainly, it's going to be more sought after than Flare of Cultivation, which I don't know if anyone's going to play in Modern. So for that reason alone, the other formats scenario is going to make this card more sought after, more expensive, and all of that. So 1 blue instant, you may sacrifice a non-token blue creature rather than pay the spell's mana cost, counter target spell. And I'll just say, the reason I didn't want to put this at number 2 is because, first of all, again, outside of the sacrifice part, this is a 3 mana counterspell. That's a cancel. That's not good. That's really bad. It is very likely that you could get into a scenario where you put this in your deck and you just end up casting it for 3 and it just becomes a bad counterspell. That is a very likely scenario. That's why I don't love it. I also don't love it. And again, I'm looking at my decks. Not a lot of decks that if this was a $2 card, I don't know if I would. There's no decks that mine that really fits in. Hold on, my Dennick deck. I changed my mind. My Dennick deck actually has a little bit of a sacrifice theme. Okay, it actually is a good fit in there. I take it back. I still think Flare of Cultivation is better. It's the one that, for me, I'm going to likely run out by a couple of copies because I have a couple of decks I'd like to put it in. Flare of Denial, for me, might go in one deck, So for me, personally, being subjective, that's how I'm ranking them. But not being subjective, being objective, this is certainly the one I think that is going to see the second most amount of play. For me, the one that's going to see the most amount of play is Flare of Fortitude. And man, they did it again. They really just keep coming out with these bangers for white. Honestly, I don't know. I just talked about, I just recorded a video. I don't think I've actually posted it yet, talking about how, I go a little bit of the conversations about what might be the best color in the format. And I will be revisiting my video about ranking the colors in the format, I think, including more categories. And this is something that is so powerful in the format that only white does, or at least only white does really, really well, that can so easily change the outcome of a game. So 2 white instant, you may sacrifice a non-token white creature rather than pay this spell's mana cost, of course. And this one, again, I'm sort of ranking these with, in that moment of I gotta cast it for free, How important is that? Certainly the top two on this list those are the ones you definitely want. The alternate free casting cost, because it's going to save you the game. Obviously, counterspells, that's the case. This one, maybe even more the case. Until end of turn, your life total can't change, and permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. So we're doing not quite, but almost that Teferi's Protection thing. It is essentially another Teferi's Protection, not quite as good, but almost there. And this is the lifesaver scenario, right? This is the game changer scenario. This can completely change the outcome of a game, and you can cast it for free. So maybe some people would even say this is better than Teferi's Protection because you don't have to leave any mana open. And of course, sacrificing a creature, okay, well, somebody's already casting a board wipe, so sacrificing one creature instead of losing them all, no problem. I'll do that all day long, right? To me, this is the top. This is the one that everyone's going to want for their deck. This is the new Teferi's Protection. Again, you could easily make the argument, I think, that this is better than Teferi's Protection. Of course, phasing your stuff out is better, but this one you can cast for free. How much is that going to bump it up? Teferi's Protection costs 3 mana. This you can cast for free, and you can also just cast it for 4 mana. Even if this card came out and didn't have the alternate free cost, right? Again, that's why I'm evaluating this the way I am and having it so high. If this just came out as a 4 mana instant that until end of turn your life total can't change, which obviously saves against all kinds of scenarios, and permanents you control have indestructible and hexproof, how many decks is that going to go in? It's going to go in a ton, even without the alternate casting cost. So the alternate casting cost for me just makes it so much better. And again, the fact that you are being able to cast it for free is, in this very specific scenario, so much more important. Again, I have to save my board or I have to save my life. That's the scenario. You want to be able to cast things for free. So for me, this one is the best. This one is likely going to be the most sought after, likely going to be the most expensive. Get your copy now or don't. I don't know. You know, it's hard to say, like, if you go after this now and try to get your copy, is it going to be more expensive because everyone's trying to do that? If you wait, I had this discussion with a patron on the Discord about sometimes if you wait, it goes down in price, but sometimes if you wait, it goes up in price. So, you know, what are you going to do right there? I guess you just figure that out for yourself. But for me, this is certainly going to be probably one of the most sought after cards from the set. I think it's the best of this cycle. Without a doubt, this cycle will be probably, I think, likely the most popular from the set. Again, just like the Ikoria free cycle, I see 3 here that are super sought after. You know, again, with the other one, it was Fierce Guardianship. I would say, man, Flawless Maneuver, Deflecting Swat, also Deadly Rollick. Really, there was only one there that people didn't super go after. Here, for sure, 3, maybe 4. You know, again, it depends on each individual, but for sure, I see 3 here being super sought after. They're going to be expensive for that reason, and we're going to see them a ton in the format. You guys let me know in the comments below how you rank this cycle of cards. That will likely be the most popular from this set in the Commander format. That is it for today, though, and thanks for tuning in.